In this video, I want to share with you some things that I have purchased that have improved my life. So these are things that have had a really high return on investment. They've saved me time, gotten rid of some kind of stress. They've made my life easier, or they've helped me to create more memorable moments. Nearly all of these purchases are under 100 Australian dollars, although a few of them go a little bit above and a few of them go a far bit under as well. Keep in mind that none of these purchases are actually essential. I don't want to put pressure on you to buy any of these things. I just like sharing things that I'm like, God, I really love this thing and it's really made me happy or improved my life in one way or another. The first item that has improved my life is an alarm clock that sits outside of my phone. So I have tried a bunch of things as my alarm clock. I've had my Google Mini, I've had my iPad, I have had my iPhone. What I like about this in comparison is that firstly, it actually shows the time. I don't think we have a clock anywhere else in our house except for this one. There's actually a very clear stop alarm button to click. I always had trouble turning my Google Home off for some reason. I never have to worry about having this charged. It's always sitting in the same spot in my household versus my phone that would sometimes move around or I'd forget to put it somewhere. And it doesn't lead me towards any social media apps. This is basically a fancy Google Home with an alarm clock face, so I can still yell at it and be like, could you add this to the grocery list? Could you set an alarm at this time? This has been a really good purchase to help me to get my routine set. The next item that has been improving my life is a chore chart. So I talked in a recent vlog about how I wanted to create a chore chart, put it in our hallway. This is now what it looks like. I am wildly privileged to have a cleaning service where someone will come to my home once every 2 weeks and they'll do a lot of the essential stuff. But if you've ever had a cleaning service, particularly if it's every 2 weeks, like there's still stuff that needs to be done on a daily basis and a weekly basis that doesn't get covered. So I popped up this chart. I actually bought a big whiteboard from Officeworks. Thinking back, it probably would have been better to buy a corkboard, but here we are. I made these chore charts just in Canva. Once you're done with one of the pages in the chore chart, you can just tear it off because it's all held together by PVA glue, which I dodged up in my office. I like having a chore chart because it makes chores around the house really visible. The next purchase is the back pod. So I am at the computer all day, and often when you're at the computer, you're like hunched over like this, right? You don't need to be. You don't want to be that person, but sometimes that's how you end up. It's really bad for your back, and for me, it's been noticeably bad for my back. So I bought this little machine. It's called the back pod. Machine is a generous word. During my breaks, I can just rest on this thing for 5 minutes and it relieves my back. Also, it makes sure that my back muscles are all like stretched out. The back pod was created by a physiotherapist specifically for this purpose, to make sure that you don't get a hunched over back, that you're stretching your back muscles right. But a lot of people have offered up the alternative of getting a literal tennis ball, covering it in something soft, and it does almost the same thing. The next item that has been improving my life is the time timer. This is a timer that is often used for children in the classroom. It's a very clear and visual way to represent time passing. You can get things done in Pomodoros. There are so many Pomodoro tools out there, don't get me wrong. You can get Pomodoro tools on your phone, you can get them on your computer. The reason that I wanted a time timer is because if I have a Pomodoro on my computer, often it gets minimized and I forget about it in the background. There's no visual telling me that time is passing. If I have a Pomodoro on my phone, it means my phone is close by. I don't like working with my phone close by. It's just a distraction-free tool that I can have sitting next to my computer at all times. When I put it on, it's highly visible the time is passing and it keeps me productive and doing Pomodoros throughout my day. The next item that has improved my life, of course, I have to mention my planner. This is the planner that I created using all of the best time management advice that exists. The Lifemap Daily is the tool that I use to help me to move through my days with ease. It helps you to prioritize your day, to time block out your time so that you're spending your time on the right things at the right time. It has a section for your mindset, for gratitude. You're tracking your wins. That way you're building up your confidence in yourself every single day. It takes you through a full-on goal setting system that I've talked about before in my video on how to design your goals. I think for the rest of 2021 is the current title. I'll have that linked down below. And I will have Lifemap Collective linked down below where you can grab your planner, of course, as well. I love my Lifemap planner. I live for my Lifemap planner. The next item is kind of like a multitude of items, and that is better basics, full stop. So things like socks, underwear, pajamas, things that I usually would not invest in, I have been investing in as of late. I always underinvested in these things because I was like, why would I invest in them? But they are literally just for me, which is kind of the reason that you should be investing in them. My go-to basics brand is Booty. Everything that they make is so soft, it's sustainable. They have this super breathable fabric that they use and everything's just really comfortable. It sounds like I'm advertising them, I am not. We just wear a lot of Booty in our household in general. My partner really likes Booty as well. You don't realize the difference it will make having bras that are actually comfortable, a winter sock collection that isn't like plasticky and gross and it's actually breathable, pajamas that make you feel clean and fresh. They all just make such a difference. Another item that I've gotten within the last month or so is a steamer. So it's a handheld steamer that you can just plug into the wall and you can steam your clothes. I have no time for ironing. I will often not purchase clothes if I think that they will require too much ironing, but sadly you can't get away with not ironing all the time. There are always going to be clothes that are going to need to be ironed before you go out. So this steamer makes that whole process a lot easier. I can just store it in my drawer. It's also really good for traveling. I took it with me to an Airbnb and it made it so much easier to just whip out my steamer and steam down my clothes. I will say it is not an iron. Like, it doesn't do the job like an iron does. But for someone with low standards when it comes to ironing, it's perfect. The next item, and it's less an item and more a subscription, is Focusmate. So Focusmate is an accountability app that is online. You can pick a time slot, you can book yourself in, open it up at that time, and you connect with someone else who's working on something of their own. So you might be working on a particular project or just doing your day-to-day work. You might even be doing like cleaning of your room. Doesn't really matter what you are doing. All you're really doing is just booking in with another person who also has a task on their mind, and you do that together. Your camera is always on. Usually your mic is muted. It's only $5 USD per month, which I think is quite cheap for a subscription. And if you have trouble focusing, you want more accountability, I would highly recommend it. There are 2 book items that I've purchased recently that have had an ongoing impact on my life. The first book is How to Take Smart Notes. I am absolutely obsessed with this book. I've been looking for something like How to Take Smart Notes for forever. I take a lot of notes on my books. I do read quite a lot, but sometimes I feel like when I read, I take a lot of notes and they don't come back to me. I might have a bunch of ideas for content when I'm reading books. I've talked about how I take notes on books before, and I like the way that I take notes on books. It's just that I don't have those notes in a good enough system. This is the best system that I have found to counter that. If you want to read books more thoughtfully and make connections between the things that you read, I would highly recommend this book. One thing that I will say is that this book focuses a lot on why the system is so helpful, and it focuses a lot less on how to actually implement the system, and you can get sucked down a rabbit hole of creating the perfect system when it comes to this book. So that's a fair warning, but regardless, I got so many ideas out of this book and it provoked so many new thoughts. And the next book is Elastic Habits by Stephen Guys. I love this book, and you guys know that I loved this book because I talked about it in my video, I think on 5 little ways that I'm improving my life, and possibly a few others. The reason I like this book is because it felt like I wrote it. I feel like Stephen watched my content and was like, I'm gonna create a book out of that. I don't think that's the case. People often have the same ideas at different times, but it was eerie reading it because I was like, wow, this feels like all of this has just been sucked out of my head and put into the perfect words. If you like what I talk about when it comes to self-compassion and habit building, goal setting, adding flexibility in how you live, you will enjoy this book. The next item, and this once again is a subscription, and it is Missive. This is probably most appropriate for people that are business owners. Missive is a platform that enables you to have a whole bunch of emails that you can check in the one spot, and also you can add your team so that they can be in charge of certain inboxes. You can have email templates, you can add your email signatures. It doesn't sound revolutionary, but I have at least 3, possibly 4 email accounts that need to be checked semi-regularly, and what I was doing previously was signing into those email accounts individually. I'd often have to enter a password for each account. Sometimes I'd have to do a text verification just to get into these accounts, and it was generally frustrating. Having everything in one place, it makes life so much easier. The next item, once again, this is kind of like a category of items, and it is warm clothes. It's winter in Australia, and I post on my Instagram story about how I've never liked winter. I hate the cold. I despise the cold. I'm not good with the cold, and I know I have no right to complain because of where I live, but I will still complain. But I posted on my Instagram and I said, hey, I don't really like winter. What is your best advice for making winter a generally more enjoyable time? And one of you responded and you said, no bad weather, only bad clothes. It stuck with me. I've repeated it to multiple people, and I took action. I bought layers, something that I have not done before. Half because I feel silly buying layers because of where I am. Other people can honestly get away with wearing like a t-shirt and shorts in our winter oftentimes. I cannot. I now have singlets that I wear under my shirts. I have a long sleeve shirt literally under this jumper. It's keeping me cozy. I have tights that I am wearing under my pants. This is something that I would do when I traveled. So when I traveled to the UK, and when I traveled to the US, I had layers on layers and that felt normal. For whatever reason in Australia, I dropped that habit because no one does it. It's not normal. Or maybe it is and I just don't know it. Maybe it's just my family. But this winter I have embraced layers and I can tell you it has genuinely improved my life. The last item that has improved my life, and this is probably like the least impactful because it's very much just visually things look better because of this item, and that is the Beto Blaze cable management box. I've recently grabbed a bunch of these white boxes that cover up your cables. We didn't have any in this area around me, so there were cables just everywhere. Now with these boxes I no longer see a tangle of cords next to my bedside, and it makes me really happy. If you liked this video, you'll probably like some of my other videos where I talk about things that have improved my life. These are usually just little purchases that have made a difference in my life that I recommend to other people, while also acknowledging that they're not necessary to be happy in any way, shape or form. I'm going to have that playlist linked on the screen as well as down below. I appreciate you guys so very much, and I will see you soon.